The skies above Earth had never felt so heavy. The stars, once symbols of hope and wonder, now seemed distant and cold, as humanity's defenses crumbled under the force of an overwhelming alien invasion. It was supposed to be the dawn of a new age, one where humans would join the greater galactic community. Instead, it was the beginning of humanity's darkest hour. For years, Earth had watched as other planets were swept into the alien coalition's grasp. The aliens, a united front of multiple species, had come to Earth with promises of knowledge, technology, and unity. At first, the humans were cautious but hopeful. They had been warned that alien civilizations were powerful, that Earth's small, primitive nature might make it a target. Yet, humans held on to the belief that if they proved their worth, they might be accepted as equals in the cosmos. The first signs of trouble were subtle. An alien ship, a sleek, metallic creature that seemed to move without sound, arrived in Earth's orbit. A delegation of alien ambassadors visited the United Nations, speaking of cooperation and shared resources. They offered Earth the chance to advance, to leap into a golden age of technology. They made no mention of domination, of control, only of peace. But the humans had their suspicions. They questioned the true intentions of these alien visitors. Were they genuinely interested in peace, or was there a deeper agenda? It was the quietest of whispers that first hinted at what was to come. A scientist in a small, hidden lab in the heart of the United States discovered a strange frequency coming from the alien ships. It was an energy signature, something no one had ever seen before. The scientist, Dr. Alan Lee, contacted world leaders, warning them that the aliens were not who they claimed to be. But his warning came too late. Before he could share his findings, alien forces began to move. In a single night, humanity's fears were realized. The skies darkened as fleets of alien ships appeared in every major city across the globe. Thousands of ships, each capable of devastating the planet in an instant, hovered like dark clouds. The ships didn't land immediately. Instead, they released their secret weapon, the technology that would break humanity's will to fight. A signal that invaded every human's mind. The signal was unlike anything Earth scientists had encountered. It wasn't a virus, nor was it an electromagnetic pulse. It was something far worse, an influence that took control of the minds of every human it touched. People in the streets, in their homes, in the offices, suddenly stopped moving, their bodies frozen, their eyes wide and vacant. They could still see and hear, but they could not act. It was as though they were puppets, and the aliens held the strings. Governments scrambled, attempting to understand what had happened. But the signal was too powerful. World leaders were among the first to fall under its control, their minds turning to jelly, their wills replaced by alien commands. The military tried to launch counterattacks, but their weapons were useless. The alien ships, hovering high above, unleashed waves of destructive energy, crippling Earth's military forces in minutes. It wasn't long before the invaders made their demands. Earth, broken and helpless, was ordered to surrender. No more resistance. No more negotiations. Humanity was given one choice: comply or face complete annihilation. The aliens were patient but cold. They did not negotiate, did not reason. They simply waited for the planet to bow before them. The world leaders, under the alien influence, signed the treaties. Nations, once proud and sovereign, fell into line, pledging their cooperation. In exchange, Earth was promised protection from other alien races that might seek to exploit it. But the protection was only a facade. It was clear that the aliens had no intention of sharing their wealth of knowledge. Instead, they planned to exploit humanity, to use them as a resource, as workers in their sprawling galactic empire. News spread quickly. The entire human race was enslaved, not by chains of iron, but by a far more insidious form of control. The aliens didn't need to force humanity into submission with weapons. They had a far more effective method: manipulation. The signal was everywhere, in the air, in the very fabric of Earth's technology. Slowly, humans began to change. Once vibrant, creative minds were subdued, focused only on tasks set before them. People were no longer free. They were cogs in an alien machine, doing what they were told without question. But even as the aliens took over, some humans refused to give in. In the dark corners of the world, in the shadows of cities, small resistance groups began to form. These were the survivors, the ones who had managed to shield themselves from the alien signal, either through the use of old technology or sheer willpower. They were led by a few brave souls who refused to let Earth die without a fight. Among them was Captain Sarah Blackwood, a former military officer who had lost everything when the alien signal took hold. Sarah had seen the fall of her city, the fall of her people. But unlike the rest, she had been shielded from the alien signal by an experimental device she had been working on in secret. It was meant to block incoming communications from alien ships, but it had an unexpected side effect. It prevented her from being controlled. She had watched, helpless, as her fellow soldiers turned against their own countrymen, her heart breaking with each moment. Yet, Sarah's resolve only grew stronger. If she could break free, then others could too. She just needed to find a way to organize the resistance. With a small group of allies, Sarah began to gather survivors, training them in secret. She knew that they were vastly outnumbered. But she also knew that humanity had something the aliens could never replicate: ingenuity. Even in the face of their technological superiority, humanity still had the will to survive. Sarah's team, with its growing numbers, began sabotaging alien equipment, striking key infrastructure, and gathering information. It was not much, but it was enough to keep the alien invaders on edge. They had not yet won a single major victory, but Sarah and her team had made their mark. They had become a thorn in the alien empire's side. And even as Earth's skies remained dark with alien ships, humanity's fire was not completely extinguished. It burned, low and quiet. But it was there. Meanwhile, the alien coalition's leaders, having seen the growing resistance, began to question their assumptions. They had expected humanity to be weak, easily controlled, but they were wrong. The humans had something the aliens had underestimated: the ability to adapt. The alien leaders gathered in their command centers, debating the next move. Some suggested more extreme measures, eliminating all human resistance in one swift, crushing blow. Others, however, recognized that the humans could be valuable, in their own way. After all, the humans had proven that they could fight back against the overwhelming might of the alien invaders. They had a strength that the aliens had failed to anticipate. And so, the fate of Earth hung in the balance. Would humanity rise to challenge the invaders? Or would the aliens crush the last embers of resistance, forcing Earth into an eternity of servitude? The answer would not come easily, but the spark of rebellion had been lit. And though it flickered faintly, it was enough to give humanity one last chance to fight. In the aftermath of the alien invasion, Earth's survivors lived under the shadow of their conquerors. The once thriving cities were now nothing more than hushed, occupied zones, where every movement was closely watched, and every word spoken was monitored. It seemed as though the aliens had won not just the war, but the very soul of humanity. Yet, there was one thing the invaders had overlooked: the unbreakable human spirit. Sarah Blackwood had seen the darkness that covered the earth, but in the depths of that darkness, a small, fragile light was beginning to grow. The resistance, though scattered and disorganized, was gaining strength. With the help of her small group of allies, Sarah had begun to gather those who were still free from the alien mind control signal. Some had been immune by chance, others had developed ways to block the signal, but all of them had one thing in common: they refused to bow down to their alien overlords. It was in the heart of what was once New York City, now a ghost of its former self, that Sarah's group uncovered the first piece of hope. Amidst the ruins, hidden beneath layers of debris and centuries-old secrets, Dr. Lydia Garvey, a brilliant scientist, had stumbled upon something extraordinary. She had discovered an alien artifact, buried beneath the city, a relic of a forgotten civilization far older than the invaders themselves. Sarah had always known that there was something more to Earth than what the aliens could see. Humans were not a species to be easily dominated. The idea of discovering something that could turn the tide of the war excited her. But she also knew that the aliens would stop at nothing to destroy it. This artifact, if it held the key to humanity's freedom, would be humanity's best hope and their greatest risk. The discovery wasn't easy. Dr. Garvey and her team had to work in secret, avoiding the alien patrols that roamed the streets like predators. The city was dangerous, its streets patrolled by alien soldiers and surveillance drones. The resistance had learned to move like shadows, striking only when necessary and hiding in plain sight. But with each passing day, the rebels grew bolder, more confident. They knew that if they could make it to the artifact and figure out how to use it, they might have a chance to turn the tide. The artifact, once uncovered, was a strange, crystalline structure that hummed with an energy unlike anything humanity had ever known. It was alien, yet it seemed familiar, as if it was built from the very fabric of the universe itself. It didn't take long for Dr. Garvey to realize that this was no ordinary piece of technology. It was a weapon, a device capable of interfering with the alien mind control signal that had enslaved so many. The aliens had used this technology to control humanity, but the very same technology could be turned against them. Sarah's heart raced as she watched Dr. Garvey work. The scientist's hands moved over the device with a reverence that spoke of both awe and fear. They didn't have much time. The alien forces were becoming more aggressive. With every small victory the resistance scored, the aliens retaliated with greater force, tightening their grip on Earth's population. It was a game of cat and mouse, and for now, the aliens held the advantage. But this artifact, it could change everything. Dr. Garvey was determined to understand how it worked. The more she studied it, the more she realized that the artifact wasn't just a tool, it was a key. It could unlock the potential of the human mind, allowing them to resist the alien signal. If they could reverse engineer it, humanity might be able to free themselves from the alien influence. But it wouldn't be easy. The artifact was complex, its language far beyond anything humanity had encountered. Even the brightest minds on Earth were struggling to make sense of it. Yet, despite the odds, they pressed on. The resistance made every effort to protect Dr. Garvey's work. But the alien forces were relentless. They knew that if the artifact fell into human hands, their control would slip away. As the resistance continued to sabotage alien infrastructure, taking down key power grids and communication centers, the aliens began to retaliate with a fury that shook the planet to its core. In one of the most daring operations, Sarah and her team infiltrated an alien command center in the ruins of what was once Los Angeles. It was a city that had fallen quickly, its once beautiful skyline now a jagged silhouette against the horizon. The aliens had set up a massive communication relay there, one that was central to their global control system. If they could destroy it, they might be able to cripple the alien operations. If only for a time. The mission was risky. The alien soldiers were highly trained, and the city was crawling with them. But Sarah's team was prepared. They had learned to move like ghosts, striking quickly and then vanishing into the shadows. It wasn't a full-scale assault, it couldn't be, but it was enough. The team infiltrated the command center, planting explosives in key areas. The alien forces didn't even know what hit them until the first explosion rocked the building. It was the spark they needed. The alien communications center was destroyed, and the humans were able to escape before the full force of the alien retaliation came crashing down on them. It was a victory, but it was also a warning. The aliens knew they were being attacked, and they began to respond with even greater force. The resistance had made its first real strike against the invaders, but the aliens were not about to let it slide. They would come for the humans, and they would come hard. Back in their hidden base, Sarah's team waited anxiously for word from Dr. Garvey. They had no idea how long they could keep up the fight. The odds were against them, but they were determined to keep pushing. The artifacts could change everything, but they needed more time. It wasn't long before they got word. Dr. Garvey had finally managed to unlock part of the artifact's secrets. She had figured out how to use its energy to disrupt the alien signal, even if only temporarily. It wasn't a complete victory, but it was enough to give them hope. They had the means to fight back. Now, All they needed was a plan. The news of their breakthrough spread quickly among the resistance. The artifact was the key to humanity's survival, and now they had a way to use it. The humans who had been enslaved by the aliens began to wake up, slowly at first, but then faster, as more and more people gained control of their minds. The signal, once so powerful, was now being chipped away at, piece by piece. It was a small victory, but it was a victory nonetheless. The human mind was no longer the property of the aliens. They had broken the first chain, but the aliens were not foolish. They knew that if they allowed humanity to continue gaining strength, it would only be a matter of time before the resistance would have the power to strike back. In response, they began to tighten their control, sending more troops, more drones, and more advanced technologies to crush the resistance before it could spread. The pressure was mounting. Sarah and Dr. Garvey knew that the time was running out. The resistance was growing, but so was the alien response. The battle for Earth had only just begun, and the future was uncertain. Humanity had found a way to resist, but whether it would be enough to win was another question entirely. As Sarah stood on the balcony of their hidden base, looking out at the war-torn world, she couldn't help but feel a sense of determination rising within her. The aliens had thought they could break humanity. They had underestimated the will to fight that burned in the hearts of every human who had ever lived. Now, the tables were starting to turn, and the aliens would soon learn that the price for underestimating humanity would be higher than they could ever imagine. As Earth trembled under the weight of the alien invasion, the tides of war had begun to shift. The resistance, once a small group of rebels scattered across the world, was now a force to be reckoned with. The artifact, an ancient, alien relic, had unlocked humanity's potential to resist the alien mind control signal. The humans who had once been puppets were now free, their will restored, and they fought back with the ferocity of a species that refused to bow to its conquerors. Sarah Blackwood stood at the heart of their underground base, a place once thought to be a hidden sanctuary, but now a symbol of humanity's resilience. The base had become the nerve center for the resistance, where intelligence was gathered, strategies were devised, and the next move was planned. The artifacts were their trump cards, their secret weapon, and it was here that they had learned to use it to their advantage. Dr. Lydia Garvey, the brilliant scientist who had unlocked the artifact's secrets, was tirelessly working on improving the technology. With every passing day, the device grew more powerful. It wasn't just about blocking the alien signal anymore, it was about taking the fight to the invaders. The artifact had given them a chance to strike back, and the resistance was beginning to make moves. One of their first successes came when they discovered a vulnerability in the aliens' communication network. The alien ships relied heavily on a centralized system of coordination, and if that system were disrupted, their entire fleet could be thrown into chaos. With the knowledge gleaned from the artifact, the resistance was able to launch a daring mission to attack one of the key alien communication hubs in a remote location. The operation was dangerous, but it was a risk worth taking. Sarah, leading a small but determined team, infiltrated the alien facility with precision. They moved like shadows, avoiding the patrols and surveillance systems that the aliens had set up to catch any human movements. With each step, they grew closer to their goal. The alien forces, so confident in their control over Earth, had underestimated humanity's ability to adapt and fight back. They reached the communication hub under the cover of night. The area was heavily guarded, but Sarah's team was ready. They planted explosives at strategic points and initiated the countdown. As the seconds ticked away, Sarah held her breath. The moment the explosives detonated, the entire facility was thrown into disarray. The aliens didn't know what hit them. Communications were severed, and for the first time, the alien forces on Earth were left blind. The resistance had made their mark. The mission wasn't without its cost. The alien response was swift, and the retaliation was brutal. They sent in ground forces and air patrols to track down the humans responsible for the attack. The resistance fighters scattered, blending back into the shadows, but not before they had seen firsthand the price of their actions. They knew that the aliens would retaliate, but they also knew that it had been worth it. They had taken down a key part of the enemy's infrastructure, and that would not go unnoticed. Back at the base, the news of the success was met with mixed emotions. There was triumph, but there was also fear. The aliens would now be more determined than ever to crush the resistance. The war had entered a new phase, and humanity's enemies were no longer underestimating them. The aliens began to respond with even more vicious methods. They increased their patrols, doubled the number of drones, and began to round up civilians, questioning them for any sign of resistance. Earth's cities were becoming more and more like prisons. Despite the heightened danger, the resistance was undeterred. They had tasted victory, and they were not going to stop now. The alien forces had made a critical mistake by underestimating humanity, and now they would pay for it. Dr. Garvey's progress on the artifact continued, and she was optimistic that it could be used to turn the tide. She had learned how to harness its energy, creating weapons that could disrupt the alien ship's power sources. The resistance began to receive reports of small skirmishes where their new technology had made a difference. Alien warships that had once been invulnerable were now crippled by well-placed attacks. The battle was far from over, but the resistance was beginning to feel a shift in the balance of power. But as the aliens ramped up their efforts, they introduced a new weapon. It wasn't a weapon of destruction, but one of fear. A virus, a deadly strain that could target the human population, was unleashed. The virus spread quickly, infecting entire communities. Unlike any disease humanity had faced before, this one seemed to work at a genetic level, attacking human DNA and causing rapid degeneration. The aliens believed that this virus would break humanity's spirit. It was their final attempt to force humans into submission, a weapon to wipe out the resistance once and for all. For the first time since the invasion began, Sarah felt a sense of dread. The virus was unlike anything she had ever encountered. It spread so fast, and the symptoms were so severe, that entire cities began to fall into chaos. People became sick in the streets, their bodies deteriorating in a matter of days. There was no cure. No defense against it, at least. Not yet. Dr. Garvey immediately set to work on finding a solution, but even with all her brilliance, the virus seemed unstoppable. It was a race against time. The resistance could not afford to lose their people. Not now, not when they were so close to turning the tide. As the virus continued to spread, the resistance came up with a bold plan. They knew that they couldn't defeat the aliens with sheer numbers alone, but if they could find a way to neutralize the virus, they might be able to reverse the damage. The artifact held the answer. They believed that its energy could be harnessed to create an antidote. The plan was risky. Dr. Garvey needed to perform the necessary experiments, but to do so, she would need access to a secure alien facility where the virus was being developed and stored. The location was heavily guarded, and the aliens were already on high alert. But Sarah knew they had no choice. If they didn't act quickly, humanity could be wiped out. The team gathered, preparing for what would be their most dangerous mission yet. They knew that the virus could not be allowed to spread any further. The battle was no longer just about defeating the aliens, it was about saving humanity from extinction. With the artifact in hand, and the antidote still in development, Sarah led her team once again into the heart of alien-controlled territory. This time, their mission was clear. They had to destroy the source of the virus and create a cure before it was too late. As they moved deeper into enemy lines, Sarah's mind raced. Every moment was precious. She couldn't afford to fail, not when the survival of the human race depended on this mission. The alien facility was as heavily fortified as they had expected. Every step forward was met with danger. The resistance fighters moved carefully, taking down alien guards silently and avoiding detection. Their goal was clear: get to the lab, destroy the virus, and return. But as they neared their destination, the full scale of the alien response became clear. The aliens knew they were coming, and they were waiting. The final confrontation was brutal. The alien forces fought with a desperation that Sarah had never seen before. They knew that if they lost this battle, they would lose the war. The resistance fought back with everything they had. The battle raged for hours, but in the end, the resistance prevailed. The virus was destroyed, and a cure was synthesized from the artifact's energy. It was a moment of triumph, but it came at a heavy cost. Many lives were lost in the battle, and Earth's population was still reeling from the virus's effects. But Sarah knew that the tide had turned. The aliens had underestimated humanity once again. The resistance had shown that Earth would not be easily defeated. And as the battle ended, humanity stood at the brink of victory, ready to face whatever the aliens threw at them next. The reckoning had begun. The final confrontation had arrived. After months of struggle, sacrifice, and relentless resistance, the moment humanity had been fighting for had finally come. The aliens, once so certain of their victory, were now facing a force they had underestimated, a force they could no longer control. The rebellion was no longer a handful of scattered groups hiding in the shadows. It had become an organized, powerful army, ready to take back their planet. Sarah Blackwood stood at the head of the resistance, her mind focused and determined. The alien invasion had shattered her world, taken so much from her. But it had also given her something more powerful than any alien technology. It had given her the strength to fight, the strength to lead others, and most importantly, the strength to never give up. The final plan was in motion, and it was risky, perhaps the most dangerous mission they had ever attempted. The Alien Command Center, a massive structure built deep within the remains of what had once been a great city, was their target. If they could destroy it, they could cripple the entire alien war effort. Without it, the aliens would lose their communication, their coordination, and ultimately, their ability to control Earth. The journey to the command center was perilous. Alien patrols had become more aggressive, their technology more advanced, their methods of tracking the resistance even more sophisticated. The human forces, though smaller in number, had learned to fight in ways the aliens didn't expect. They had used the artifact to their advantage, disrupting alien systems, creating chaos among their ranks. Yet, the alien response had also become more vicious. Each victory the humans scored was met with brutal retribution. But despite everything, humanity's hope was burning brighter than ever. The plan was set, and Sarah and her team, armed with new weapons and an unshakable will, moved toward the alien stronghold. The mission began with the assault on the outer defenses. The aliens had created a perimeter around their command center. A line of heavily armed soldiers, drones, and automated weapons that seemed impenetrable. But the resistance had learned how to use the artifact's energy in ways the aliens had never anticipated. It had allowed them to develop new weapons capable of disabling alien drones, causing their machinery to short-circuit and malfunction. The resistance didn't have the numbers or the technology to fight the aliens head-on, but they didn't need to. They fought smart, using the element of surprise and their own ingenuity to disrupt the alien forces at every turn. The first wave of resistance fighters, including Sarah's closest allies, engaged the outer perimeter, drawing the attention of the alien forces. The sounds of battle rang through the air as humans and aliens clashed in the streets. The alien soldiers, once so sure of their superiority, found themselves struggling against the unexpected ferocity and strategy of their enemies. The humans fought not just for survival, but for their very future. In the chaos, Sarah and her team snuck past the main battleground, using tunnels and hidden pathways to get closer to the heart of the alien stronghold. Their objective was clear: reach the command center and destroy it. But it wasn't going to be easy. The alien forces were now aware of their presence, and the closer they got to their target, the more dangerous it became. As they moved deeper into the alien complex, Sarah's heart pounded in her chest. The gravity of the situation weighed heavily on her. This mission was everything. If they succeeded, humanity could reclaim Earth. If they failed, there would be no second chance. Earth would fall forever, a slave to the aliens. She couldn't let that happen. She couldn't fail her people. The final leg of the journey was the most dangerous. The resistance fighters encountered increasingly sophisticated alien defenses, and they had to fight their way through. The alien technology was unlike anything they had ever seen. Energy barriers, advanced robotic sentinels, and alien soldiers that seemed to move faster than human eyes could follow, all posed serious challenges. But the resistance was prepared. With every obstacle, they found a way around it. With every enemy that fell, they grew stronger, more determined. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, they reached the heart of the alien command center. It was a vast chamber, filled with holographic displays and advanced technology that pulsed with energy. Alien leaders, hidden in the shadows, were coordinating their forces from this very room, directing their remaining troops across the globe. It was here, in this final moment, that everything would come to a head. Sarah and her team moved quickly, planting explosives at strategic points around the command center. They had only one shot at this. The Resistance had learned that the artifact's energy could be used to disable the aliens' central communication network, rendering their forces blind and disorganized. But the artifact wasn't just a tool. It was a weapon, and it was now in their hands. As the countdown to detonation began, the aliens realized they had been breached. The alien commanders scrambled to respond. But it was too late. The human forces had outsmarted them. They had infiltrated the heart of the Empire and were about to deliver the final blow. In those final moments, the alien leaders, once so powerful, so certain of their control over Earth, found themselves powerless. With seconds left on the timer, Sarah's team made a swift retreat, racing through the corridors as the alien command center erupted in a series of violent explosions. The building shook as the explosion ripped through the heart of the structure, sending shockwaves through the alien forces. The Resistance fighters fled, their mission complete, their objective achieved. The aliens' control over Earth was broken. The battle outside was still raging, but the loss of the command center had dealt a devastating blow to the invaders. Without their central command, the alien forces were thrown into chaos. Their communication lines were severed, and their troops, once coordinated and disciplined, were now disorganized and confused. The Resistance seized the moment, launching a full-scale assault on the remaining alien positions. In the days that followed, the alien forces began to collapse. The technology that had once made them seem invincible was now useless. Earth's forces, bolstered by the willpower and determination of humanity's survivors, fought back with everything they had. The aliens had underestimated humanity from the start. Now, they were paying the price. As the final remnants of the alien invaders were driven off, Sarah stood on the steps of what was once a thriving city, now a battlefield scarred by war. The skies, once dark with alien ships, were now clear. The sun shone brightly once again, a symbol of humanity's hard-won freedom. The Earth, though scarred, was still alive, still free. The victory was bittersweet. Many lives had been lost. The cost of the war had been high. But humanity had prevailed. They had fought against overwhelming odds, against an enemy that had once thought of them as nothing more than a resource to be exploited. Now, humanity stood as a testament to the power of resilience, unity, and determination. In the years to come, Earth would rebuild. The scars of the war would fade, but the lessons would remain. Humanity had learned that no matter how great the threat, no matter how powerful the enemy, the human spirit could never be crushed. The aliens had come to Earth thinking they could enslave a weak, defenseless species, but in the end, it was the aliens who found themselves at humanity's mercy, begging for peace, begging for mercy. As they realized that Earth was not a world to be conquered, it was a world that would always rise, no matter the darkness that came. And as Sarah looked out over the horizon, she knew that the fight for freedom was never truly over. It would always be worth it. Because in the end, humanity would always stand, unbroken, against any force that sought to enslave them.